Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve an illustration which is associated with labor costing. The chapter which we are related with is to calculate wages and payment to the workers, labor costing. As you know, under cost and management accounting, we usually be directly associated with three main factors: material, labor, and FH. And this chapter is purely associated with labor workings only. In previous lectures, several times we have discussed one major factor, and that is we are associated with three factors: material, labor, and FOH. While for calculation of labor, we have described that there are two main ways of calculation of labor. First is time weight method, with which what you will do, hours worked would be taken, how many hours a labor had worked, and it would be multiplied with per hour. This is very simple way to calculate wage of any labor. And second method which we are associated with is your piece work rate system, under which instead of looking about hours a worker had worked, we will look how many pieces or units are being manufactured by the said person. We will calculate number of pieces and will multiply it with per piece. So these are two ways with which we can calculate our wages. Right now we are up to this illustration, and where there are several workers, six workers are working in our manufacturing concern. And keep it in mind, we are not making financial statements, we are not calculating net profit, we are not going to make balance sheet. So indirectly I am trying to say we are not associated with the financial accounting. This is management accounting, where we are related with labor units. And right now we will learn how to make worksheet regarding salary. So it's a pure skill when an accountant is working in a manufacturing concern. All right. So first we will take an overview of the question. There are six labor units, out of which four labor workers are directly associated with manufacturing direct labor, and two workers are indirect labor. Example we can give: if there is a garment factory, so four workers are producing garments and two workers are working inside the factory, but they have no concern with the production, like security guard, clerk, cashier, computer operator. So if these two workers, let's assume that they are computer operators, it means they are indirectly associated with the production, and above four are producing garments. So these four are direct labor and last two are indirect labors. So they have worked for these many hours, overtime is there, hourly rate is present over there. Now there are few very important statements. First is time and half is paid for the overtime. Time and half is what we will understand. And these are three deductions: provident fund, insurance, and income tax. Simple is this. This illustration has no complication. We will be calculating their wages collectively, how much amount each and every person, every worker is taking. Beside this, we will calculate total wages. And for each and every worker, there are some deductions as well. We will deduct these three factors from total wages, and then we will calculate the net wage of each person and net wage of total labor workers present in the factory as well. And next is we have the answers as well. Look at here, total pay means how much total amount would be paid to the workers. Overtime payment is also described here. We have segregated direct and indirect labor. So now we will be preparing a worksheet. That is why I was saying and this is the only one illustration which would be very helpful for you to understand how to prepare worksheet regarding labor workers in any manufacturing concern. So very first thing is we can mention here workers. Next is we can calculate normal wages, or gross wages can also be mentioned over here. So let's write down gross wages, where what we will do, we will calculate their pay and then overtime. Total pay would be written over here. Total I was total pay. Okay, next step we will see how many deductions we do have. And as you can see in our question, these are deductions. So first is provident provident fund. Spelling is not correct in our illustration. Provident fund. Next deduction is for insurance. Next illustration is income tax. Then here we can write total deductions. Up next we can see their net pay. Alright, in this way this section would be completed. In next section we will see, you can see they are asking us to distribute into two parts, direct labor, and finally we will see indirect labor. Guys, this would be our performa for the sheet, and hopefully you have understood what we are going to do. Look, it's the simple thing. There are several workers like A, and we'll see how much gross pay he is taking, how much overtime he will take, and total pay would be calculated by doing what? We will add pay and overtime pay, with which we will calculate total pay. Then we will see the deductions. Deductions are of three types: total deduction, and finally what we will do, we will calculate net pay by taking total pay and will deduct total deductions. In this way, our net pay would be calculated. Then we will distribute this net pay into two parts, direct labor and indirect labor. Now keep it in mind, in our question it has also already been segregated. There are four workers who are direct and two workers are indirect. In this way we can distribute amount of A, B, C, D as direct and amount of pay of E, F as indirect. So let's start. We will be looking forward for worker A, then B, C, D, E, F, I think G. Let's see. No, just F. So what is missed? A, B, C, D, E, F. G is not present. So for pay, what you will do, you will be calculating this pay with hours worked into per hour. So go to the question and you can see that regular time is 44. These are hours worked, and for per hour we do have 8. So what we will do, please focus upon here, 44 hours have been worked and per hour rate is 8. In this way our first payment has been arrived. Look over here, 44 hours worked and hourly rate is 8. Now next is overtime payment, and how you will calculate your overtime, again we will be elaborating it. overtime payment is calculated by overtime hours multiplied by per hour. Go back to the question and see, here we have worker A, his overtime is 5 hours, per hour is 8. In this way you will calculate overtime. But for that, before that, you will have to understand this particular statement. Time and half. What does that mean? Time and half. It means full payment would be made as well as 50% would be added. It means 1 plus 0.5. 1.5 time and half means original payment 100% would also be made, and half means 50% would be added in it. It means 100 plus 50%, 150%. In both options, either you can take 1.5 or you can take 150%. What I had said, time means 1, half means 0.5. When you will add both, it would be 1.5. I am going to let you know for overtime. For first worker, overtime hours are 5 and 8. Come over here and I will be calculating 5 hours multiply by per hour 8 and multiply by how much? 1.5. In this way you can calculate your overtime payment. So we have got 60. Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate it again. How did you calculate? Time, it means 100%, and half is very simple thing, means 50%. So total would be 150%. Overtime payment for first worker, how have we calculated? 5 hours were overtime. Look at here, 5 hours overtime and per hour 8. So 5 multiplied by 8. But beside this, we are asked to give him 150% time and half. So what you will do, you can multiply it with 150%. So now let's calculate it. 5 multiply by 8 and multiply by 150%. And what I have done, 150% means 150 divided by 100, and that means 1.5. So you have got 60, and answer we have calculated is also 60. One more thing I'm just going to let you know, 150%. Percent means divided by 100. So in this way your point has right 1.5, and here you have written 1.5. Hopefully you have understood. Overtime hours multiply by per hour and multiply overtime 1.5 or 150%. In this way our calculation for first worker overtime has been completed. Now we will be elaborating or calculation of total pay, for which no complication is present. What you will do, normal pay plus overtime pay. This way you can calculate your total pay. So guys, we have calculated first worker normal payments, and now we will see how much provident fund. For this, let's go to the question. Provident fund contribution is 5%. So simply what we will do, amount of salary, amount of wages is 412. I forgot the percentage. 5% is your percentage of provident fund, multiply by 5 divided by 100. So please note it down. This way we can calculate our provident fund. It has been calculated as 20.6. And next calculation is insurance. Go back to the question. Insurance is 1%. Your amount of wage was 412 and you will calculate 1%. Please note it down. So we have 4.12. Another thing we can do is 5% is provident fund. We can mention it over here so that instead of going up and down, we can directly calculate it. Insurance is 1%. So let's note it down, 1% insurance. Income tax is separate. For that we'll have to go and take reference from the question as well. Income tax withheld, A is 3 rupees. Directly we can write. Now we will be calculating our total deduction. So hopefully you have understood. This was the pay, total pay 412. 5% of 412 has been taken for provident fund, 1% has been taken for 412. We have got 4.12 as insurance, 3 was given in the question. So total deductions for employee number 1, 20.6 and 4.2 and 3. These are your total deductions. In this way we can complete our column for total deductions. First column was used to calculate total pay. These are total deductions. And net pay, we have elaborated the formula. Net pay would be calculated by deducting all deductions from payment. This was your total payment and 27.2 was total deduction. Here you can write down the amount of net pay. Total payment 412 and you need to subtract total deduction 27. So you will get your total pay of A, that is 384.2. So in this way your calculations can be completed for A. And now we will see how much calculation for B part. In this way we will go back and see what B had done. B had worked 44 hours as well, but rate is 12 per hour. So per hour rate is different for everyone. Here you will calculate your simple wage rate, 44 number of hours and 12 per hour rate. Please note it down. So you have got your wages as well. Okay, so next procedure is your overtime. How much overtime worker had done? B worker 3 hours worked, 3 per hour rate is 12 and you need to multiply it 1.5. In this way you have got your answer. We can elaborate here as well, multiply by 1.5. And why 1.5? This was explained over here. 150% time and half. Time 100%, half 50%, total 150%, and you will get 1.5. Please note it down. We are not adding that initial 1.5 over here. Okay. Original amount 100% is not added over here. We have taken 44 separately and overtime is written separately. So I will let you know again over here. Finally, total pay, how you will calculate normal salary and you will add overtime payment. So you have got your total pay of second person as 582. Now we will be looking forward for provident fund. It has been mentioned 5%. Payment was 582 and you will multiply it with 5 divided by 100. Provident fund calculated. Insurance is 1%. Amount is 582 and you will multiply it with 1 divided by 100. So this way insurance deduction. Go to the question and see income tax for B. It is 4. So you can write 4 over here. Total deduction, how you will calculate? There are 3 deductions, 29, 5 and 4. deductions have been calculated. Now net pay would be calculated how? You have total payment 582, subtract total deductions. This way you will get your 543 as your net payment. What we have done, this was gross payment, total payment 582, deductions 38.92, subtract both and we have got the net amount of payment. Now we will see the third worker had worked again 44 per hour 10. So 44 hours he had worked, and how much payment? 10 is per hour, so multiply by 10. This way your payment has arrived. Now you will see how much overtime he had done. Worker C 4 hours. Please do understand 4 hours multiply by 10 per hour and multiply by a fixed factor 1.5, 150%. So you will get overtime payment. Now total payment has two factors, normal pay plus overtime. This way total payment has been calculated. Provident fund as it is, total payment multiplied by 5 divided by 100. Insurance amount payment 500 multiplied by 1 divided by 100. Then income tax, let's go back to the question. For C, income tax is 4 for both persons. No, for B, income tax, okay. Here for C, 4.75. 4.75 income tax. Now total deduction, you will add all three deductions present over here. 34.75 is your total deduction. Now net pay, gross payment 500, subtract all deductions. You have got your third payment 465.25. Okay, in the similar way you will be working for D part. D worker had worked 44 per hour is 15. So 44 multiplied by 15. Please note it down. Now how many hours he have worked for overtime? D part 6 and 15. 6 hours he have worked, per hour is 15 and fixed factor 1.5. Overtime payment is also calculated. Now total pay will be calculated by adding both overtime and normal pay. Provident fund is 5% and insurance is 1%. You are taking income tax. We will see from the question. For D part, income tax is 6. Let's put it down 6. Total deduction would be calculated by adding all three deductions, provident fund, insurance and income tax. We have got total deduction. Now your net pay will be calculated gross pay minus all deductions. Deductions were 53.75. So this way you have calculated your amount. Alright guys, now we will be looking forward for E. Let's go back to the question. E was an indirect labor and he had also worked for 44 hours, 11 per hour. 44 hours he had worked, 11 per hour. Overtime is not mentioned. That means E and F have not done any overtime. Good news, 0. So total payment you will make 484 and plus 0 means 484. Alright. No matter if he had not done any overtime, but provident fund, insurance and income tax would be deducted. Amount was 484 multiplied by 5 divided by 105% would be provident fund. Then insurance 484 multiplied by 1 divided by 100 insurance. Income tax for E. Income tax for E is 5. Put 5. Now total deduction, how you will calculate? First deduction provident fund, then insurance, and then income tax. Total deductions arrived. Now net pay. For net pay we have gross payment, subtract total deductions. Net pay has also arrived. So all 4 workers are completed. Now it's time to see last worker. F, he had also worked 44 hours, per hour is 9. So 44 hours multiplied by 9 per hour. You have calculated gross payment, and you can see that last worker had also not performed as overtime. So it would be 0. Gross payment would be same 396. Now we will be calculating his provident fund. How much? Amount was 396 multiplied by 5 divided by 100 provident fund. Then we will calculate insurance. 396 was the gross payment multiplied by 1 divided by 100. Then we will see income tax. For that you will go back to the question. F was the person. 2.5 is income tax mentioned over here, after which you will calculate your total deduction, provident fund, then add insurance, and you will add income tax. Total deduction 26.26. Now net payment, gross payment 396 minus 26. So you have got your payment. In this way all calculation regarding your net pay has been completed. Okay, so next step is to see your total of everything. Here this row would be used to calculate your totals so that we can have our final answers. First we will calculate normal payment. We will take some. I am taking help from Excel, but you will have to add all amounts present over here. This way we have got our normal payment, and overtime payment, take some and add everything present over here. So you have got your overtime as well, and we have our total pay, take some, of total payment. So you have got your total pay 3169, and you can see the answer, total pay 3169. And one thing I would add, we had taken extra hours over here. We have not calculated overtime separately. We have not added overtime hours in normal hours. So if you want to separate these overtimes, you can calculate. For that, what you will do, overtime hours are few 5, 3, 4, 6. You have 5, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, and 6. Per hour rate was 8 and 12, 10, 15. 12, 10, 15, and factor which you will use would be only 0.5. Now I will let you understand why it's little bit time taking or time seeking. Here you have included 44 hours and you haven't included any term of overtime. But since one mean 100%, this overtime was meant to be added over here 100% and only 50% was required to be written over here. This is also second method. I'm just letting you know how to calculate. Okay, here instead of 1.5 you will take only 50% over overtime. What you will do, 5 working overtime hours multiplied by per hour rate 8, and you will take its 50% multiply by 50 divided by 100. Okay, and same formula would be used for remaining workers. Now you will take the sum, and sum of these 4 workers overtime is 103, and you can see the answer of overtime 103. Okay, you will take time, keep calm yourself and understand what we have done. Overtime was to be paid 1.5 according to question. Look over here, your overtime is time and half. There are two ways. Either 100% payment should be included in your simple payment. Here we have not included overtime hours. We have simply done what? 44 hours were written over here and per hour, and overtime hours first payment was not included over here. So we have directly included overtime over here with time plus 1 hour. The second method is do not include 100% payment over here. Instead add 100% payment at this side. For that what you will do, your normal hours are 44 and overtime hours are 5, 49 total hours, and per hour is 8. So you have got your normal salary 392. These are overtime payments. Normal salary, instead of writing 352 you are going to write 392, and ultimately when you will add both, this is normal plus overtime 20, you will get the same answer 412 412. By demonstrating it, you are now well aware of the fact that there are two methods of calculation of normal and overtime. If you want to separate overtime cleanly, what you will do, normal hours would be multiplied by normal hours 44 multiplied by per hour and separate overtime. And if you will be separating overtime hours, what you will do, 5 were the overtime hours multiplied by per hour and 1.5. In second case, if you want to include 1, that means 100% efficiency in normal hours, so instead of taking 44, what you will do, 44 and 5, 49 hours, it would be multiplied by per hour rate 8. Now what had happened, out of 1.5, one part was included here and remaining 0.5 was included. 0.5 means 50% is written over here. Collectively you will get the same amount 412 412. So these are two different ways with which you can calculate your overtime. Either overtime hours should not be included in your normal pay, or you can include 100% part in normal wages and extra payment or of 0.5 in overtime payment. So if you have still any problem of understanding these two different methods, you can comment over here and I will let you know in a different perspective as well. But if you want to do in this way, that is okay. If you want to separate your overtime efficiency, you can do this method as well. But ultimately you will get the same answer 412 and 412. We have collectively seen 3169 is your total payment and in answer is 3169. This overtime payment is pure overtime. Time and half means half part, 50% part, total was 103 and we have calculated it 103. In case you are 100% separating your overtime, overtime payment would be 309. If you have not separated overtime, rather 100% efficiency was included in amount of wages, then answer is 103. Both answers we have calculated and you can choose option by yourself. Okay, that is concluded total payment 3169. Now you will sum up total provident fund which you have calculated over here. Take sum of provident funds of everyone. We have got 158. Same you will do for insurance, income tax and total deduction. I'm taking help from Excel. So this way you have calculated sum of all deductions individually and in total. Provident fund total was 158, insurance total was 31.69, income tax total 25.25, total deductions 215.39, and now you will be calculating your net pay. Okay, so how you will calculate net pay? Taking sum of all the amounts present over here. So you have got your total net pay as well. This payment would be made to workers directly. 286 gross, 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 everything is gross. These are just the calculation. Final payment which you will do, which you will pay to worker A is 384. Though his total payment was 412, but deductions were 27.72. After deducting, you have got your final payment 384. Alright guys, so now we will see how much direct and indirect labor. For that, answers are available, direct labor and indirect labor, but for that you will choose second method for calculations. This is method where you will purely including normal hours and you will not include any overtime hour. Here what you will do, you will include both simple hour or normal hours plus overtime hours. Okay, so let's wrap it up so that we can see the heading clearly. At this stage, what you will do, normal hours plus overtime hours, and then you will multiply it with per hour rate. So come up here, your normal hours 44 and 3, that means 47. Your total hours including overtime multiply by per hour rate of second worker was 12, I think. Yes, for second worker 12. Here multiply it with 12. You have got second amount 564. Then go back into the question. This method we are using for calculation of payment, where you will pay overtime hours and regular hours collectively. For third, 44 and 4, 48 per hour 10. So here 48 total number of hours multiply by 10 per hour working. We have got third answer 480. This was for worker A, then B, then C, then D. And now we'll see E and F as well. And total we will be doing at this place, and let it be transferred to downward. We will have empty space over here. Okay, for D part, D worker, we will again go to the question. This is your D worker 44 and 6. 50 hours per hour 15. 50 hours multiplied by 15. You have got your payment for D worker. And for E worker, since there is no overtime, so these amount 484 and 396 484 and 396 can be mentioned directly as there was no overtime payment. No overtime payment. Alright guys, now total amount here would be mentioned 484 and for F396. These payments are meant to be written over here. Overtime is nothing here. What is this? Overtime hours, and then we have per hour, and this is overtime payment. And how you will do overtime payment? Instead of, this was the difference, instead of writing 150%, one part of this overtime is also already included, so you will be adding only 50% in second method. This way you have completed your second option or second part. Let's wrap it up. Now here you will be calculating your total pay. How? By adding your pay and overtime pay. Let's calculate payment for B. 564 was simple pay. You will add overtime 18. We have got total payment for B worker. For C worker 480 plus overtime 20. Again we have 750 plus overtime payment 45. Now we will sum up all payments. I will take help from Excel, and these amounts, highlighted amounts, would be added. We have got our payment. Now here you can see the same answer has arrived for total payment 3169 and 3169. Answer is not different, just methods are different. And difference is what? That is amount of overtime and total payment. These two answers would be different. Let's take the sum of simple payment as well. So answer you will see would be different. I'm taking sum of this whole column 3066 while answer was 2860, and overtime 103. Here overtime is 309, but ultimately you will get the same answer 3169 and 3169. These are two different methods which you can use, and I have already explained, but if you want to get further explanation it would be available. The only difference is, do not add overtime hours in normal payment and take overtime hours separately, where what you will happen, you will follow exclusively this statement, that was time and half for overtime. It means 1 plus half, 1 plus zero point 0.5, that means 1.5 or 150%. So this is genuine method where you will be paying 1.5 to overtime. In second case, what you have done, instead of paying 1.5 for overtime, you will pay only 0.5 over here, and one part of this overtime would be included over here. As you can see that we have taken 49 hours, while actually for worker A normal hours were 44. So what you have done, one part of this overtime directly added in normal hours, 49 hours, and you have paid them uh, in this way. Look at over here, 49 hours. How you have got your 49 hours over here, I will let you know. You have 44 normal hours, and then you added 5 overtime hours. This way you have calculated your normal payment 392. Now please keep your focus over here. In second phase or second method of calculation, 5 overtime hours were included in normal hours. In first method, you haven't included, look at here, only 44. You haven't included overtime hours in normal payment. In second method, you have added overtime hours, 5 into normal hours. That would make the difference. So in this way, both methods ultimately will give you the same answer for total payment. Now you are needed to separate payments, direct payments and indirect payment. Since these workers E and F, they were not, these three workers, they were not included in direct labor. It was mentioned in the question. Here you can see worker E and F were indirect. So what you will do, you will separate these two workers. For making direct labor, you will be adding total payments of A, B and C, D. Their payments would be written in direct part 392, and then we have B worker 564, then C worker 480, then we have D worker 750. E and F were to be included in indirect labor. So you will write indirect labor over here. Amount of wages of E here and amount of wages of F over here. In this way, you have separated direct labor and indirect labor. And kindly note it down, overtime is not gross payment or direct payment. Overtime would also be included in direct labor. First overtime 20, then we have overtime 18, and third overtime is 20, fourth overtime 45. So please look and understand well. This is the way you can segregate direct labor and indirect labor. The important part of this question was to calculate total payment, and we are pointing it out, marking it a separate. Okay, how you have segregated your direct labor and indirect labor? It was mentioned in the question. A, B, C, D were direct. So what you have done, you took payment of A, B, C, D and wrote over here. This is your direct payment. E and F was mentioned indirect, so 484 and 396. Look at here, these payments were shifted over here. Every overtime payment is not to be said as direct payment, so overtime payments are segregated separately. We will take total, and I will get help from Excel to sum up amounts present over here in direct. You have got 2186. Let's go back to the question, and here direct labor is 2186, and let's take sum of indirect labor. This is 983. Let's go back and check answer. 983 indirect labor. So our answers completed. These were two answers, 2186 and 983. Let's mark them. as answers which have been completed. And previously we have calculated two more answers, and that was total pay and overtime payment. These were second answers. Let them marked as well. 3169, and this was your first method where you have calculated your wages as well. We are marking it as well. Here difference is your overtime was separated 309, and in this case overtime was not separated, and overtime was I mean 100% part of overtime was mixed in your normal hours. This is the only difference, and I have shown you for several times. 44 normal, overtime mixed, and in first case only normal hours are written 44. Overtime was not mixed. Overtime was calculated absolutely separate way, 5 hours, and we have multiplied it 1.5. That means 100% and 50%. Both are included in overtime. In second case, you haven't included 100%. You have just taken, there were two parts, 100% and 50%, 150%, and this was mentioned over here. There were two parts. 100% and 50%, 150%. In A case, you have added both 100% and 150%, that means 1.5. In B case, you have added only 50%. 100% part was included in normal hours. So you can see we have got our four answers over here, and two answers were mentioned at above as well. All four answers were matched with the book as well. Total pay 3169, 103 overtime, 3169 overtime payment 103, and we have direct labor 2186, direct labor 2186, and indirect labor 983. There is 983. All answers are matched. So hopefully you have understood how to prepare the worksheet for labor units. In this way our illustration has been completed. Though we have taken considerably more time for completion of this worksheet, but even then, if you have any query, any question regarding putting amounts in worksheet, I have shown you two methods. Either overtime could be added in normal wages, or overtime can be treated separately, absolutely separately. So if you want to add overtime in normal hours, it's up to you. If you want to take overtime 100% separately, you can. Both methods uh, were mentioned in this solution, and keep it in mind, either you are separating overtime hours or you are including overtime hours in regular wages. In both cases, your amount of wages, total amount of wages would be similar. There would not be any difference. It is just depending upon the regularity. It is just depending upon the decision of organization by their will. They can add overtime into normal or regular wages. They can separate overtime hours from normal wages. Both methods were mentioned over here. Alright, illustration is completed. We will surely be meeting again for solution of any other question in future. Up till then, make your queries ready, make your questions ready. You can text, message, or directly contact me and ask your question. I will surely be trying to answer your queries instantly. So for next solution, when we will meet, please take care of yourself up till then, and I'm requesting you to please pray for me as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.